Can you imagine if you went on a first date with someone, you walk her to her door and you say goodnight and I would love to see you again. Do you think that's in the cards? And then before you get back to your car, you shoot her a text and you're like, hey, what do you think? Let's do it again.
I'm outside. Do you want to go?
Yeah, like let's just run it back.
Once again, welcome to the Digital Customer Experience Podcast with me, Alex Turkovich. So glad you could join us here today and every week as we explore how digital can help enhance the customer and employee experience. My goal is to share what my guests and I have learned over the years so that you can get the insights that you need to evolve your own digital programs. If you'd like more info, need to get in touch, or sign up for the weekly companion newsletter that has additional articles and resources in it, go to digitalcustomersuccess.com. For now, let's get started. Hello and welcome back to the Digital CX Podcast. My name is Alex Turkovich. This is episode 87 of the show where we talk about all things digital in CX. And today I am pleased to be joined by my good friend and editor of this show and all around media mogul when it comes to CX podcasts. Of course, it's Dillon Young of Lifetime Value Media and the Daily Stand-Up, and the segment, his awesome newsletter. And it's actually his second time back on the podcast. We talk about all manner of things, yes, relating to digital, but also life and the job market. And one of the benefits of having a show like this is you get to talk to a lot of people and get a lot of insights. And that is Dillon's no exception there. And so I wanted to glean a little bit of the insights that he has learned from his guests over the past years. So please enjoy this episode of the Digital CX Podcast featuring none other than Dillon Young. Hi, Dillon.
Hey, Alex.
Welcome back to the show.
That's right. I was here. Hey, so you know what's interesting? The last time we talked, you reamed me for my very bright drinking apparatus. Do you remember that?
I mean, I called it out several times because I kept forgetting that I called it out, and I kept getting shocked by it because it is something.
So you know what I did? I'm going to lie to you. I didn't do this for you, but what I have today is a DCX branded drinking vessel, stainless steel. This is different than the other one, but it is just as bright and obnoxious.
It is bright and obnoxious. Yeah, absolutely. Slightly wrong color orange, but impressive nonetheless.
It's the best I could do on literally less than no notice.
Exactly.
I just happen to be using this today. This was not for you.
Oh, man, that's funny. Well, you are among a very few who are in the Two-Timers Club, and I'm excited about that for multiple reasons.
Okay.
Because not only, I think most people who listen to this show will know who you are, right? But in case you don't, like Dillon Young, would you call yourself lead host of the Daily Stand-Up?
Oh, I would never.
Head honcho?
I'm the boss.
You're the boss.
No. Let's not vacillate. I'm the big cheese. No, I'm co-host of the Daily Stand-Up with my two very good friends, of which you are very familiar, Rob Zambito and JP Frost.
That's right. On top of that, you also produce a killer weekly newsletter called The Segment, which is super, super, super cool and very creative and, not your typical CS publication, but it gets into all kinds of different things. You're also you're head of a media empire called Lifetime Value Media, which does have some association with this show in that you are probably the MVP of this show for sure.
I love to hear that. I love to hear that because you know why? The amount of people who, when you get to the end of the show and you say, oh, what's in your content diet? The amount of people, I guess there's an opportunity that they could just be being lazy, but almost to a man and woman, they say, well, a cornerstone in their content diet is your podcast. So I like to think that I've got a piece of ownership in that. Not actual ownership. I don't mean that, Alex, but you get what I'm saying.
I do. I think people mention the show at the end because it's in the contract. So
I didn't get that contract. So at the end, let's see how I do.
yeah, right. Exactly. But no, look, I mean, the amount of content that you put out with your co-hosts and solo and all that kind of stuff is amazing. I mean, it's for those of you who don't listen to it, go, subscribe to the Daily Stand Up, because it's a daily show, which is an insane amount. And you have a lot of guests. And that's part of what we're going to want to talk about today for sure. But it's cool because it's short 15-minute episodes. It's not me drolling on for like an hour.
Yeah, and imagine how I feel having to edit that. No, I'm kidding. Yeah, I think what we wanted to do was, if you look at it from the most positive sense, we love the CS community, me and the other hosts. That's who we is. And we wanted a way to bring additional value that we weren't sure we could do by wading into the 60-minute pool. I've done that before.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of people do it really well, but I thought that there was a void for that sort of like micro content that people can dive into every single day. And so that's really kind of like the genesis of the idea was, I want to hear more about it, but I can't listen to 60 minutes every day necessarily.
Right. Yeah. I mean, 15 minutes is a lovely amount of time because, you can walk and get the mail in 15 minutes, or you can, take your dog for a walk, or you can, it's good because not everybody has like 50-minute commutes like I do.
Yeah. And so I used to love listening to podcasts, and then I had to curtail it quite a bit when I started working remotely.
Mm-hmm.
And then it just like didn't really fit into my world anymore, because I can't listen to a podcast and work at the same time.
No.
And so that was another thing, was like, I think of a lot of, this is like maybe super selfish of me, but I make a lot of these creative decisions or try to identify gaps in the market based on how I feel and what I think.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that's the right approach, but I am probably the avatar of lifetime value media overall.
Sure. I would agree with that. Except for the sloth that you have.
I'm slow like him. His name is Slow-Mo, for the record, and I am slow just like him. I'm lazy. I'm very lazy.
And I disagree. So, not to put you on the spot here, but how many episodes, how many guests have you had on the Daily Stand-Up? Do you keep track of that? Surely you do.
At the time of this recording, we have crossed over 160 episodes. Guests. So we've done more than that.
Yeah.
Maybe like 180, 190 total episodes. The large majority of those are one-time guests.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We've had a couple of two-timers that are fantastic. You have actually been on 3 times, though at the time of this recording, 2 of those episodes have not aired yet.
Right.
Which is why I had to laugh at, I am in rarefied air for 2-timers on DCX, and you're already at 3 on the Daily Stand-Up. I mean, I don't want to compare notes, but I'm obviously a much kinder and more benevolent host than you to give you as much airtime as I have. So yeah, something like, I mean, maybe like 200 episodes and let's say like 150, 160 guests. So,
I mean, obviously this is the Digital CX show. So we've, try to focus on digital stuff, but we get, we go, as we go all over the place sometimes.
Of course.
Out of those guests that you've had, how many, because the format of the show is somebody basically brings a topic to the show, right? And you famously ask what's on your mind. And I'm curious, you famously, and I'm curious to get a sense from you, because I'll admittedly have not listened to all 160 some odd episodes.
Wow, I gotta go.
Yeah, I know. How much digital related or technology related things have people brought to the show, and have you walked away after all those episodes with kind of a sense for or a finger on the pulse, so to speak, of what's happening digitally?
So you're gonna love this because you and I have talked quite a bit. I'm a big fan of ambiguity.
Yeah.
And I think the problem I'm going to have with this answer is like, okay, so let's start at the beginning. The question was, how many people have talked about digital? I'd bet it's less than 20.
Mm-hmm. That checks.
However, I think more people are mentioning it as just another tool in the toolbox for customer success, which I think is appropriate.
I agree.
I remember the very first time you and I ever talked, you told me about this podcast you were creating, and I I don't want to sound like
you
I'm
immediately
the wise old
poo-pooed
man
it. No, just kidding.
here. No, I said I love it. I think that's a great idea, and that's as niche as you have to be with this stuff. Like it can't be like, well, I want to talk about baseball. It's got to be about the Tampa Bay Rays. It's got to be about the New York Yankees. Like
pitching.
You can't, just being an outfielder. No, the point is like you just can't be that broad anymore when you're creating content, and you can go so deep on a topic now. I remember that first time we talked, it was a different time, and it was very much when people thought about it as a segment.
Yes. Oh, absolutely.
I don't think that's the case anymore. And so many of our conversations, we might just offhandedly mention digital as this method of communicating with customers or this method of accomplishing a very specific task more efficiently.
Yeah.
In a way that I don't think happened 2 years ago.
Yeah, I concur. And it's interesting you say that because it is kind of a thing. It's regarded as a tool in the tool belt. But to many, it's still this kind of black box situation where a lot of people even have said to me is like, we have digital. I'm like, what does that mean? Like,
yeah, they use email. Yeah,
this isn't binary. It's not a Boolean. Like, it's not on or off. Like,
yeah.
So I think a lot of people love to like mention digital CS as this one thing, but it's a multitude of things. It can be anything really within your organization, and the variables are vast. And so, it makes sense why people just mention it like that. But still, I think a lot of people are struggling with the identity of digital and how that impacts their own gig and their own organization, their own team.
You zoom out for a second and you think about, we have digital.
Yeah.
And I wonder what they actually meant, because to your point, it's not binary. But did they mean they have a digital segment, or did they mean they have automated customer interactions?
Yeah.
Because both of those are accurate, but it's not the end of the story. And it's funny how we can say that and we can laugh and that guy's an idiot, like we can see, we can say that, but when you're in the middle of it, it's so hard to like think about like the NBA back in the 90s. People would say like, oh yeah, we shoot 3-pointers. And from somebody from the 60s would be like, what the hell's a 3-pointer? Right. We didn't have that.
Yeah.
But Steph Curry would hear somebody from the 90s say, oh yeah, we shoot 3-pointers. And he'd be like, yeah, you shoot 3 a game. I shoot 40.
Yeah. Right.
Right. And so it's so easy with the benefit of hindsight to see how stupid we are. Yeah. I wonder what it'll be in another, even just 2 years.
Oh, totally. Yeah. I was talking with somebody the other day who basically got hired on to, run digital within an organization. And it was very clear that the leadership didn't really know what that meant because they were, I think she got put in charge of like the scaled team and they were just doing scaled stuff. And yeah, that's tangentially related to digital, but it's not digital. Like it's, so she hired some program managers and actually put in place some stuff, which is cool. But yeah, this whole have digital thing is like, technically if you have an email flow, you have digital.
Well, yeah, if you're using a laptop, you have digital because the alternative would be, I got to use my landline to call people all day and see how they're using my product.